series. We are now focusing on one of the last attributes of Conjury, so we're nearing the end of this series. This is by far the most important factor. This one is going to help you to manifest everything that you need to. The main component of Conjury when it comes to activation of it is what we call assurance. All of the information that you've learned up until this point has been to teach you what Conjury does and how to begin entering into the practice. But this is the one that makes certain that what you do actually works and functions. So let's talk about what assurance is, because it's not the same as confidence, but it's very close. So what assurance means is that you are absolutely certain that what you're doing is going to work. Now, this is the problem with most people's Conjury skills, is that they aim too high at first, they disrupt their own expectations, and then they don't want to carry forward anymore. If you try to make a mountain crumble into ashes or jump up into the sky and you fail, this has a detrimental effect on your levels of assurance. So Conjury is not meant to be something that you jump right forward into the stars with. You're meant to incrementally work your way up. And if you have failings, this will diminish your results. So you have to actually get good at it and practice and train. It's a lot like somebody who trains to jump hurdles and then they fail. They try to jump the hurdles in a competition and they break their leg. Suddenly, they're not jumping any hurdles. And the next time they do try to jump a hurdle, they might be heavily set back. This is how Conjury works. I have tried to cast very powerful Conjury spells before and succeeded, and this will amplify your assurance. Yet in the same way, the failings that you go through will diminish it. And so one of the major practices in Conjury is making sure not to take on tasks that you won't succeed at. If this happens, it's all right. It's bound to happen unless you are incredibly clever with your skills. So in order to bring up your assurance, you have to succeed at Conjury. This is the only way to do it. It's very solid in its inclusiveness of its own power. Conjury doesn't get better until you actually practice it and learn to wield it. Now, assurance is nearly confidence, but it's different. Confidence has a backed up reason, and this is where we have to kind of learn to work with our willpower and our desire to manifest. This all just sounds like a bunch of words if you don't really know what I'm saying. So the actual thing I'm trying to say here is you must believe that you can alter the fabric of reality. This is very simple to believe. Now, right now, and this is the traditional way of explaining this faculty. Right now, you can alter the fabric of reality. Take something and move it with your hand. I just moved my hair. My hair was here. Now it's here. I've altered the fabric of reality. Therefore, in old traditional sense, I've just conjured that into existence. But we are putting a divider here and saying that our Conjury practice is the practice of not needing to touch an object with our hands or use our words to force it. These are different. This is what we call martial activity, so to use the body to actually go out and actively change things with your body. When you change with your voice, when you tell something to happen and it does, this is called enchantment or incantation. Conjury has no outward intention that the thing you're changing witnesses. So for example, if I was trying to enchant you, I would say something to you. I would perform a gesture in your presence. I would give you a look. But Conjury, definition-wise, denotes all of that is in other subjects. You are changing something without having to give it a cue to change. This is one of the highest forms of practice. So how do you actually get these things to happen? Well, you have to start small. You have to start by changing subtle things that you don't normally seek to change. Just little things. For example, right now, you probably have a typical breakfast routine. If it's a breakfast cereal, then that's what it is. And you go to the store and you buy, I don't know, cornflakes. And every time you go, you buy these cornflakes. So there's some subtle things you can change here. Right now, you've programmed your subconscious to go pick up cornflakes. Now, what we're trying to do is make a subtle change. And so the first thing you start out with is yourself, the way you behave. You want to alter that. So at one moment in your day, think about never buying cornflakes again and instead getting a different cereal. And if you really like cornflakes, you'll just have to take the hit on this one. And in your mind say, next time I go to the store, I'm buying Cheerios. And wave your hand, snap your fingers, do something as a gesture and for yourself. And then just forget about it. And do several things like that. Try to cast minor spells on yourself to say, well, now I'm going to actually get up at 7 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. And keep trying to bewitch or manifest things to happen differently in your life. This is the first baby step. It really, really is. This sounds a bit just like common everyday stuff, but you are training the faculties you're going to use. So do this for weeks and weeks until suddenly you have full control over your behavior. This is the basis of Conjury. You start to gain control over what you do. If you don't have control over what you do, how do you expect to start controlling the environment you're within? This is one of the big things I see in young practitioners, the want to jump ahead way too fast and make such a big influence, make such a big name, and there's no backing behind it. I trained for decades, and so the practices, they come slowly and steadily. The training that I've done at one point got to a level where nothing diminishes it very much. My faculties will hibernate and relax themselves, but they don't diminish anymore like they used to. And it's because I have cultivated a steady assurance in my practice. Now, it starts out with being able to control your own behavior. I would recommend using this to improve your health. It's just a smart thing to do. It's not necessary. You could use it to improve any part of yourself or even ruin yourself, to be honest. But I recommend doing it to benefit you. If you want to engage in a recreational activity that you've been ignoring, start conjuring the activity back into your life. And when you do, you'll see you have a lot more control over your day than you thought. And once you control the self, I assure you that you will start being able to control things that seem to be outside of the self. This is one of the big main things about what's going on here, is you are not just this body, you're everything. You're connected to all things, and the higher part of you knows that. So when you're tapping into this higher self, it's going to start informing you about this. And since you've been practicing on yourself altering your own behavior and your own being, when you start to see that everything else is a part of you, it will line up and it will connect, and you'll be able to make changes to your environment just like you make changes to yourself. This is the next stage, and this is the incredible stage, the part that people really, really like. This is what you think of when you think of magic, being able to just, boom, make something happen. And this is where we're at now. So once you've created a solid assurance of yourself, and what I mean by this is this, so write it down. Once you are certain of all of your own actions, then you are ready to start conjuring in the world. Remember that statement. So right now, are you absolutely certain of your actions? Do you know what you're going to be doing today? What about if something changes? What about if a meteor hits the earth? Do you know what you're going to do? I do. And it's because I've cultivated assurance. And what happens is you start to connect heavily to the higher self, and that becomes more of your persona. This diminishes the ego's influence a lot, and you start to see through the veil rather than actually being hooked on it. So the practices of Conjury lead you to being able to fully wield your own person. Then, once you're doing that, you start to discover that's part of the greater mechanism. So the fact that you control your diet, you control your movements, you control how you speak and the rate at which you speak, just everything. When you're at that level, you start to notice the things outside of you that you have control over. For example, many people think their career, the job that they're inside of, that they're stuck in it, that there's no escape from it. And this is because they've conjured it into existence. They created that job in the sense of the highest self. There is no job, there is no money, there's not even an environment for you to be traveling around in, going from a place to a place. You're just sitting, experiencing all of this psychically. So when you say, I have this job, I hate this job, I don't like going to it, you're holding it into existence, and you're keeping it there, just like you kept that cereal that you liked. And so it's this loosening of your own ego's desires to control the world so that you start to gain influence on a higher level. And then the outside world starts to come under your influence. And this is because it always was. To help break this apart from ideas of megalomania and supremacy, you are not the only one doing this. Every single person lives within their own subjective reality. All of these subjective realities combine to make what we call the objective reality. But it is still subjective. It's just the subject becomes all of us. And so your reality is subjective. You alter it. Now, any soul or spirit or being that comes into your reality is agreeing to your terms, and you're agreeing to their terms. So Conjury leads towards connecting with different people, connecting with different energies, establishing a completely different lifestyle. Anybody in your life that doesn't believe in you or doesn't believe in your abilities, if they're there in your life all the time, this is a great sign that you have not wielded your abilities yet, that they're still there. And what are they doing there if your higher self knows better than to let them? Your higher self likes them there because they're telling you, don't believe in yourself, don't believe in yourself, don't believe in yourself, don't believe in yourself. And you listen. Your higher self likes this because it knows this is the process by which you become liberated. One day, you're going to look at all these people telling you these things and you're going to say, you know what? All of you are wrong. I'm not listening to you anymore. And you'll wake up to yourself. This is the process of believing in yourself. And in this practice, it's called assurance. When you have the assurance to influence things outside of you, you will start to notice. You will say, oh wow, I really would like my job to change. And then instead of you having to go and change your job, things happen in strange sequences that lead to you getting what you want. This usually comes like a wave. It doesn't look like